Keith
Water tanks.
I'm going to ask Mr. Steele if he would take over that.
Yep, I'll go through them. Keith, if you want to add or take away for each item. So we went through the plant, and we presented several times all of the improvements that we've been working on with the water treatment plant. It's fully within compliance now. We've upgraded everything that has moving parts that are critical to providing water to the citizens within the city. So I think we've come a long way. The plant has certainly been revitalized, to say the least. But there are still some things that Keith and I wanted to bring to council's attention. Some of them are pretty big ticket items, and we just want council to be aware they're not really compliance issues, but some of them deal with safety, some of them deal with some hand railing that may be close to failing. So I'll just go through these. A chlorine scrubber, that's a big ticket item. It's $600,000. However, it is a safety feature for the type of process that we have done there, which is chlorine. So again, the plant is running fine. We haven't never had any issue, but an industry standard is a chlorine scrubber when you use that type of thing. So I don't know how council prefers to handle that, if that is considered a 1 to 4 or 4 to 10, but it is something we need to have on the radar just so everybody's aware of it.
You may explain what a chlorine scrubber does. We feed chlorine, 100% chlorine gas out of a ton cylinder, and pretty much the only time you're going to have a problem with a release would be when you're changing from an empty cylinder to a full cylinder. And if something would happen that the valve stem would break off the cylinder or something and release a whole ton of chlorine, this scrubber, it's got vacuum fans and stuff on it. It captures and holds that chlorine gas in the media, so it doesn't release into the air and into the atmosphere and over into the wood yard and wherever else, and put other persons in danger as well.
Just a question. Chlorine cylinders you use 1 ton, are they used and hooked up outside of that brick building there, or are they
They're inside. They're in a separate room of the brick building.
Of the brick building. So they are actually in an enclosed structure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a skate up or a scat reg requirement. It's laid down by DEQ. So another item, $30,000 item. There's a crack in the sedimentation basin that needs some concrete repair.
Probably a few cracks.
Yeah.
Just we probably haven't even identified all of them. There are.
So that's a $30,000 item, and again, I think that would probably be considered a 1 to 4, in my opinion. In the event that one of those would decide to get a little more serious, it's something that is probably addressed sooner than later. New handrail and existing handrail replacement, $75,000. Again, that's more of a safety issue. Pipe gallery condensation remediation, just the nature of the temperature of the water coming in there and the condensation that we have in all the pipes. I mean, it could look like you've got a leak in the roof at times. So something to deal with that. That's an $80,000 line item. And we just repainted all the piping and everything in there. And it looks really good. It just something to consider that would protect the investment that the city's already made in pipe gallery in there now. Sludge removal equipment installation. This is the other hard skip. It's a $655,000 line item. But what Keith and I have talked about, and I think we've touched on this before, and this impacts George as well. Right now, without that feature, we send George one big slug each year, and it's a massive coordination effort, and there's got to be a lot of stuff happening in his wastewater treatment plant that impacts that process as well. So I don't know how, and we haven't talked a lot about it, but in all honesty, that line item, it bridges across two budgets, to be quite honest.
And
So-
he pays George to actually process it.
Right. So I think that could probably be one, that could be an item that could fall in both treatment facilities. So, again, I mean, we have a way to handle it, and they do a good job to get through that every year. Chlorine analyzer installed at Horse Mountain Tank, $23,000. And I think that's probably a low-hanging fruit item. I know that's a lot of money. We're probably a little heavy on that, but right now, I mean, if we have any DVP or chlorine management issues that are furthest away from Keith and his plant, that's the location that we have. So what this would do would allow him to monitor the chlorine residuals that he's maintaining that far away, and then we can decide whether we need to inject more as it leaves the new pump station or not, without him having to physically go out there all the time and keep a check on that. So I would call that a modernization line item. And then the last is a ceiling repair for the control room. We've got a $3,000 on that one. And I mean, it's not a big ticket item, but so any questions about water treatment plant stuff?
So the tank inspections were pretty positive.
Yes, I'll do those next. So we inspected 5 tanks. The only one that we have not inspected is Asbury, because every time we get ready to drain it, it drops to single digits. And that tank drains down over the hill and then across Route 18. So short of making the newspaper for turning into Route 18 into an ice skating rink, we have avoided that. And this week we were going to drop it down again, and here comes another polar blast.
It probably freeze before it gets to the road this time.
Mother Nature does some of them slick spots through there all of a sudden, with a lot of rain too.
So thanks to Alan and the Public Works folks, in conjunction with some of the work we've done on the access roads to the wastewater pump stations, we've got really good access down there to Asbury Tank. And that was a scary trip down over that hill, to say the least, but they've done a really good job. We've used the millings that we captured from some of the other paving, and it's a really good access, so we're going to be able to get down to that tank. That's the only one we haven't inspected, but if all the other if it goes like the rest of the inspections, I know any of you that go and look at the outside of those tanks and you're like, these, they don't look like they're in very good shape. Whoever put that coating on did a fantastic job. Because if you're seeing a different color, you're just seeing the intermediate coat under the exterior coat. There is zero metal loss on any of the tanks that we did inspections on. There's a couple little things at Pocahontas tank, which I think we could probably fix for under $1,000. That's the only concrete tank we have. The rest of the metal tanks, all of the interior, that's probably what needs to be repaired before the exterior, and we can overcoat those. And what that means is we don't have to blast that paint off and have expensive removal, because there's no lead on that. And so that, we did an adhesion test on it, and that just involves scuffing the paint, and they go and put a couple of different types of coating on it, and then they put the super high powered Gorilla Glue tape on it and rip it off to see if it sticks, and it gets a scoring. So all of them can be overcoated on the inside. My recommendation is within 1 to 3 years, we probably need to spend about $200,000 on a couple of those interior tank coatings, and then the 4 to 10 year range, probably another $300,000 to get the rest of them shored up. So that's a manageable amount of money if I think we think about it long term, and maybe put a little bit back each year, but that'll be a council discretion on how you guys want to handle that. But I think we're looking at about $500,000 over the 10 years to get all 5 tanks back up in full operation. And once you do that, they will last for 30 years. You won't have to touch them for 30 years. Now, the only other thing that Keith and I talked about, I am pretty uncomfortable with the high service tank situation. It's the highest tank we have, and it stands up there all by itself. So if and when we have to drain that tank to paint it or maintenance, we can bring in some temporary storage, but I will have about 4 seconds of fire flow with the biggest tanker truck that I can bring in, unless you stack them side by side. That is so something we had considered long term. Just think about it, and Mayor, you always say I always try to bring up more money. There needs to be a sister tank built beside that tank.
My gosh, man.
When we get to the point where we have to empty it,
I agree.
we need that's something, it stands up there by itself.
Yeah.
And so if something happened to that tank tomorrow, the people that are served by that tank, we would have to run Pocahontas pump station 24/7 and leave a fire hydrant parts of tracked, so we don't overpressurize the system and just let water run up there constantly. I'm not saying we couldn't get water up there, but Keith and I thought of having to run pump station 24/7. That's not where we want to get.
Put all that money into upgrading that pump station.
Right.
Blow it up.
Right. So the tank inspections overall, I was really surprised. The outside looks like they're in rough shape, but they laid it on thick. So the metal of all of the tanks are in really, really good shape.
Any questions? All right, well, we'll just kind of continue in the water world on water distribution, water line replacement, and fire hydrants.
Yeah,
You've done a good job with fire hydrants.
Yep.
We did, for the first time in a long time, we got a crew together and we went out and did what we were supposed to do. And we'll go do that twice a year. We'll flush them twice a year. We did a good fall flushing, and then we'll have our spring flushing come up, and we've identified the guys, got you all the information, I assume, that you needed, and we got a couple sick ones, we got a couple ill ones, but for the most part, I think they're pretty functional.
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. We hit a lot of the low-hanging fruit with that $5.8 million that you guys spent on the water system upgrades. We improved a lot of the fire flow issues that the fire department had concerns with. We replaced lines, so we had a backbone through most of those areas. And it'll be an ongoing effort, but I think the water system's probably the least of the infrastructure concerns at this point.
One thing we really need to address, and I'll hope to include it in this upcoming, but is the fencing around the reservoir tank up on top of the hill. It's Pocahontas. It's in rough shape. We've done some nice work up there with clearing some trees and opening up, and we have a neighbor that uses city property to his own advantage, but we have got to get up there and be good stewards with cleaning that fence up and just taking it all down and putting up brand new fencing around that holding tank up there. And then as far as water lines, I'm being honest with you, you all seen the pipes we brought in, and we're addressing that the best we can with the resources. If it's something really, really bad, it's a line replacement. If it's something that's bad, it's clamping. And that's throughout the city of Covington. We get fussed a lot about people's water pressure, but majority of those times it's still on the resident, because as old as our lines are, theirs is just as old.
And we're mapping now, we're recording where we have breaks, and we have a lot of breaks, and then we can put money into repairing those sections of lines.
We got a couple kids, I say kids, they're a lot younger than I am, but a couple young fellows that have really took an interest in what we're doing out there with water. We're identifying, as a matter of fact, yesterday we identified 7 more that were probably getting it on the house, and we've corrected that. So we're gaining new customers every day that have been customers for many years. And these kids have just done a nice job. And keep our water group in your thoughts. Kevin Catchern's sick right now, and he's really important to us. But he's got some things that are saddling him down that we hope to see him back in a few weeks, but he's out of commission. And I got a couple of kids that are having to call him while he's laying around moaning to help us find this and that. So he's been a good team player right now, but Roger and Alex have stepped up to the plate for the city and done a nice job. And just because I'm good friends with them, they will still turn my water off. And that may not have happened in past years. Any other questions on our water? And kudos to Keith, of course. I mean, his guys, they do a great job. And George as well, but us in Public Works, we've had situations where we've needed to communicate on the clock, off the clock, and we ain't missed a beat.
We work together very well.